So my name is Elias Karam, and this is my oral presentation on epigenetics, abortion, inflammation, which is what I did for my thesis. This is my second video. My first video, something went wrong with it, but the issue of pollution within our society is one of great importance and relevance to all members of the society. Pollution has touched the lives of almost everyone in some way or another and is significant. You look for prevention of pollution through uh, air filters on cars to, clean air acts and the economy of oil and just limiting that. As a global disease is cancer that's caused by pollution, and it's through these toxins that can change the DNA of our system. Um, this is what I'm trying to prove in my paper, because this is epigenetic, because in classical genetics, DNA doesn't change, but we know now, with all the scientific research that's been coming out in the last 10 years, that DNA does change. And I propose a mechanism of how it changes through methylations and show you what causes it in the long run. It's pollution, but really inflammation in general. So, how does the body work to begin the cycle of inflammation? And could there be a way to offset the damages of inflammation as related to cancer? So I will try to explain this and then go in and maybe tell you how I see, debates like pro-life and pro-choice and just how the immune system works. So the immune system works through inflammation, but chronic and persistent inflammation causes cancers and tumors. And the tumor necrosis factor is increased by stimulating the serotonin 2A receptor, which is also the receptor that causes lizards in New Mexico to hump even though they're asexual, which is interesting. I mean, it has to do with the sexuality is so important to nature that even the epigenetic effects can't outdo the neurobiological effects of the serotonin receptors. I will go into chemistry in making a division between organic molecules and inorganic molecules and their interactions with biological species through inflammation. So those are disciplines that are important: chemistry, biology, and politics, because there's all sorts of pollution that's caused by the politics of clean air, and clean air is what pretty much I'm going for, because it's the silica that's released, it's the asbestos that's released into the aerosol form that gets into our lungs. The focus of the paper is, to also show how infections that are caused by abortion can lead to cancer, because the infection triggers chronic persistent inflammation that doesn't heal on its own. And it's an important topic politically, because people are pro-life or pro-choice, and I'm pro-life because I think that even the act of an abortion can be jeopardizing to the mother's life. And life, I mean, I choose that the government has the responsibility to preserve life, and that's why they have the responsibility to clean up the air, because asbestos and carbons that are released from oil fires can jeopardize life. And those are things that are not, you know, favorable. And so there's a correlation between infection and inflammation. And it deserves like an interdisciplinary approach, because it's not just, you know, it's the chemicals that are involved and the methylations of DNA and, you know, long-term inflammation and the control of it through the serotonin receptors. And, you know, we don't want deadly effects. We want, you know, people to be alive. So there's biology and politics, and hopefully a change of, you know, Clean Air Acts and what we think is the best way a society should be in control of their own destiny. So I did a literature search on inflammation, so I could clear up what it means to have an infection and inflammation and then cancers. And women who have had abortions have a possible future risk of cancer because of this connection. You know, there's not that much research on it, but, you know, the research that is out there showing these tumors as a result of inflammation and cancers. And larger is that maybe anti-inflammatory drugs can be used to stop these types of cancers, which is like aspirin. But I think the most potent would be one that is an agonist to the 2A receptor, serotonin receptor, because it was proven in a 2012 paper that it had anti-inflammatory effects unprecedented. So better than aspirin. Uh, you know, focusing on prevention of, you know, abortion, and, you know, that can lead to the mother staying alive and not developing cancers. But, you know, it's also about pollution and the speciation of whiptail lizards and the radioactive iodine and radiation that was caused by the atom bomb being dropped and tested on in New Mexico. And these serotonin receptors mediate inflammation, like I was just saying, which is good, which means we kind of know, okay, we mediate inflammation through these receptors. That means for issues that are chronic persistent inflammation, we can turn it off by stimulating the receptor. So, I mean, a really good sign that we know a lot about this stuff and that we can make a change. But, you know, it's hard because sometimes the chronic persistent inflammation is caused because of an inorganic molecule in your lungs, like asbestos or silica, which are common in dirt and mud, to enter our bodies through the lungs and stay there and then cause inflammation for 40 years. I mean, I think anti-inflammatory drugs could help that, but it's better, you know, if we could prevent the asbestos and silica getting in the air through oil fields and stuff, uh, which creates pollution in the particle size of 2.5 to 10 millimeters. While particles exist in all forms and sizes, it's the special type of lattice that's found in silica and asbestos, because it's inorganic, it's a crystal, and it stays in the lymphatic system, and, you know, they get inhaled and cause issues. And these issues over time change DNA, methylates DNA, which can cause cancer through inflammation. And this type of change, to model it, is epigenetic, because it's not like classical genetics where DNA doesn't change and, you know, RNA is the only thing that creates, you know, new cells. And it goes against all that because it's about now the new discovery of DNA methylations, which, you know, accounts for the asexual with all lizards. I mean, classical genetics can't account for that. It just doesn't work. I mean, and there's been 15 years of research on this stuff that's in literary review that's kind of just going against classical genetics and going to epigenetics. And it's linked to pollution. Now, I talked about inorganic molecules, but there's also organic molecules that can change the genetics of populations. Isoflavins that are found in Osaga oranges, uh, I think, have led to maybe changes in Indian population's genetic profile. So it's just anything that exists in our environment can change us, and whatever that means, it changes us for this generation or 5 generations. Still changes us. And, the pollution that's a result of spills in Alaska by Exxon and BP spills in the Gulf of Mexico has released, oil and the combustion of oil into the environment, which is organic. It's not like asbestos or silica. It's organic, so less toxic overall, but it can still change the allele frequency of biological species. So cancers are caused by inflammation, and to control inflammation is through the serotonin 2A receptor. Then what we need is a measure of inflammation, and then the causes of it, and eliminate the causes of it, and then if it's chronic persistent inflammation, then treat it with a serotonin agonist of the 2A receptor. And abortion is a cause of inflammation. So, if we can stop that, we can, stop the cause of inflammation. Then we don't need anti-inflammatory drugs to fix it. And, there's all different types of things that are related to this. I mean, you have occupational exposure to radiation through lab technicians, and that also is a confounding factor to what causes methylations of DNA, the cytokines that are released. It has to do with radiation. So, look at dental X-rays, all different types of, you know, atomic bomb tests. You have all these occupational exposures. Integrative research sheds new light into that analysis. Because inorganic and inorganic chemistry is not enough. Because you have to look at the biological systems and how it relates to, just the material. And inflammation and exposure to pollution. Well, that's pretty much a sample of my paper. I hope you understand it. If there's any questions about it, I'll answer it. Just message me on the discussion board. I use some literature I found on this topic about the atomic bomb tests, the release of radioactive iodine, demolitions, and the release of asbestos, silica for those who sandblasted. These are all occupational exposures to dangerous inorganic particles, while there's organic particles that are less dangerous that are from cigarette smoke, BP spills of oil, Exxon spills of oil. Less toxic, but still can cause inflammation on the individual, and how this inflammation is caused to cancers, and how abortion leads to infections that cause inflammation that can lead to cancers, and how just being pro-life in the government means to cure pollution and to cure medical procedures that can cause inflammation and cancers in the long run. And you need that discipline of politics along with the discipline of biology and chemistry to understand the larger picture and the determinism that is related to inflammation and the cure, which is, my opinion, based on what I've read, serotonin 2A receptor agonist, which is anti-inflammatory.